I'm just not sure the Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. It's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's more bad.
Now listening to Open Season, your host, Billy.
Welcome to the Open Season Show. I'm your host, Billy Allen. I'm sitting here with my man, Frankie Bradica, as always. We've got a lot to talk about. It's the last show before the NFL season starts. Would you pay Lamar Jackson? Let's talk about the playoff teams. We'll be pointing out the teams that we think will make the playoffs. How long is Bill Belichick's leash if this team doesn't perform well? And is week one going to be his only coaching advantage this season? Pujols is headed towards 700 home runs in an incredible season at age 42, if you believe that he's 42. And we'll talk about if that's a bigger story than Aaron Judge with 54 homers, looking to make it all the way to 60. Russell Wilson and Baker Mayfield, a couple quarterbacks that changed teams. We'll talk about how they're looking. You know, in the intro, we're always talking about how bad Mitch Trubisky was, but apparently he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Steelers. Frankie, why don't we kick it out with this day in sports?
All right, so we're starting 1953, and it's disputed. I looked at 5 different websites. They gave me different answers, but Roy Campanella hits most home runs by a catcher, 38. Somewhere as high as 40. I believe he had 42 for the season, but 38 were as a catcher. But that record stood for quite a long time. You had to wait for Bench and Fisk and Javi Lopez and Pudge, but that was a very significant record. And I left Piazza off that list. I'm sorry. But that's not a position known for home runs. So 38 and 53 is huge. It's just a big number. 1975, Martina Navratilova at the U.S. Open seeks political asylum, which is a big story. It kind of has defined her career. I'm going to tie back into her in a second because we're going to talk about Serena. So 1995, we have Cal Ripken breaks Lou Gehrig's Ironman record. I was so happy that I finally got something juicy, and I had a couple of them, but Cal Ripken breaking that streak is huge for me. I loved it. 2008, Serena Williams wins her 3rd U.S. title. I bring that up because Serena retires. I think that's huge. One of the greatest athletes of all time. And I do think her, Tiger, Michael, they all kind of beat up on bad competition, which led to them being the greatest. But Martina Navratilova played in probably the golden age of women's tennis and was that good at it. And seeking political asylum on this day, 1975, I just think it was a big moment. The last thing, 2 years ago, Novak Djokovic beans an umpire in the face accidentally and gets disqualified. Number 1 player in the world, out.
All right. Well, hey, do we know who has the record for home runs as a catcher now? I was thinking about that. Has anyone ever hit?
It's Javi Perez, I believe, at 43.
Or Javi Lopez.
And then Salvador Perez has 41. And then you have a couple seasons from Bench and Fisk that are right around 40.
Yeah, Javi Lopez had an insane year one year. He had like 350 with, yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. I was trying to think about that. Mm-hmm. Well, great. Hey, finally we clicked on something relevant. I mean, we'll probably be talking about Serena for the next however many. I feel like she's been a big part of this day in sports also. So, I mean, we've always got to do our tennis update. Big tennis show.
Look, I said this to you guys, but would you bash me? It's a great age in men's tennis, and we have one of the best tennis players ever in Serena. So it can't be left off if you care about sports.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into some of the big questions kind of for week one coming up. I mean, obviously, we've spent the whole summer talking about kind of some of these expectations for different teams and everything like that. Like I was just saying, it seems like the Steelers made the decision to ultimately start Trubisky over Kenny Pickett. I think that's the wrong move, and I'll give you my thoughts on that in a minute. But Frank, where do you stand on that decision? What Steelers doing at quarterback this year?
I'm going to say this. Mitchell Trubisky, as far as mediocre quarterbacks go, is one of the most disrespected. He is as good as Ryan Tannehill. That man, look at his career touchdown to interception ratio. Look at his win-loss record. That man is a lot better than people give him credit for. And he has a couple highlight runs on Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football, respectively. I mean, the guy has played much better than a player who, I think he's a bum. I think most people think he's a bum. But he's a guy whose numbers in career early on have indicated better than bum in a dysfunctional organization.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's the right move because I don't think that kid is ready. I think that kid is more talented and will be the starter in no time. I don't think he's ready.
Yeah, I just feel like if you have someone like Trubisky, like, I don't know, how old's Trubisky now? What's he, 27 or something like that? It's just like, he's not going to really be getting any better. We kind of know what he is at this point. It's like, why not just start the kid? It's like, if you're a team, if you have your quarterback, you're trying to do what you can to surround them. If you don't have your quarterback, you're trying to do everything you can to take a step towards getting that quarterback. I feel like that Trubisky isn't one of those guys. So why don't you move in the direction of surrounding that first-year guy, a guy that you took in the first round. I don't know how good Kenny Pickett will be, honestly. I feel like he's very accurate, but I don't know what else is going to come with that. But just feel like you should be moving towards figuring out who your quarterback is. Like, bring in Pickett. You took him in the first round. See if he could play.
I'm always a fan of quarterback sitting. That is the one position where you do benefit. And if your game is predicated on physical talent, then it leaves you as you get older. But to say Trubisky won't get any better when his problem is decision-making and being poised, no, you can get better at that. You can get better at that because he has arm talent. He's got arm talent. He's got tangibles. He's got no intangibles, possibly nothing between the ears. But he's got tangibles. So the idea that he spent a year on the bench for a good organization should have helped him tremendously. What you should hope for if you're the Steelers is the same thing the Titans were hoping for in Tannehill, is the same thing the Saints are hoping for with Jameis, is that the guy with all the talent but failed in a terrible place can be taught to change his habits.
I just don't know how much stock I'd want to put in any of those guys. And I don't know how much of a compliment it is when you say that a guy is like Ryan Tannehill. I feel like he's a guy that I'd be ready to move on from in Tennessee.
Me too, but you put up the same numbers as Patrick Mahomes for 18 games, and you were a good quarterback for a full NFL season. So to be compared to anybody who's done that is when you haven't done that yet is a compliment. It's a higher benchmark than you've eclipsed.
All right, so let's kind of keep going around with some of these burning questions. Is Saquon Barkley still elite, Frank?
Saquon Barkley was elite his rookie year and hasn't been elite since. Will be elite this year. Bookmark it.
You think this is just the year where he finally goes crazy and it just seems like he's had bad breaks and just seems like he has to do so much on that offense?
I think OJ passed the baton to Dickerson. Dickerson gave it to Emmett. Emmett gave it to LT. LT gave it to AP. AP was supposed to give it to Barkley, but the Giants gave him no offensive line, and what is one of the all-time travesties and injustices in the NFL's history. You gave a running back no O-line, no perimeter threats at receiver, and no quarterback, and then you said, "Here, kid." And for a season, it worked. But it wasn't destined to work for a long time. That is an indictment on the Giants, not Saquon. And as long as he's healthy, he was always going to be elite.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to disagree, but I just feel like this is going to be the year. I think Saquon is one of those backs that is just, that guy is absolutely incredible. His legs are, I just feel like this is finally the year where he gets things going and doesn't have the bad breaks. And I just feel like with the Giants, they've done a lot to, I guess to put on top of this, how much do you think stock do you put in Brian Daboll being able to turn around Daniel Jones? Do you think they'll be able to make things right with Daniel Jones? Because I think that's going to be a big part of what saves Saquon, to be honest with you. I believe in Brian Daboll.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, I know. I kind of asked you a question and I answered a little, so go for it.
Oh.
Difficult to answer when I do that.
I like Daboll. I do. There is no saving Daniel Jones. You only have a couple years to teach certain mistakes out of somebody. You can do certain things later if a player is humbled, if a player goes through certain tumultuous experiences. But I don't think Daniel Jones has got that. I think Daniel Jones has it's everybody but me type of level of accountability. And for a man who ran 20 miles an hour only to fall over his own feet, I think that very much encapsulates his whole career. I think he's got nothing between the ears, much like the guys I mentioned previously. But the difference is he's been a loser. Jameis won games and led the league in this and led the league in that, and is on lists with Peyton Manning and Dan Marino. Okay, I think this guy. And Trubisky's over 500, as I said. Daniel Jones has been trash.
All right, let's get into it. Would you sign Lamar Jackson to what he's going to get? I mean, you've got to sign him. If you're going to sign him, it's going to be $45 million a year for 5 years.
I will reiterate what I said to you on the pre-show call. I would start, once you know a quarterback is it, I would start ripping these rookie deals up year 2, year 3. I don't care what the NFLPA says about it. And I would just start signing them to 5-6 year extensions, getting them until their latter 20s, and then using the franchise tag. Let you go at 31, let you go break someone else's bank, and I'll draft after having you for 10 years. I would start ripping up these contracts right away. I think the Cowboys are a prime example of this. They played Russian roulette with Dak, and Dak won. Now they're paying a B+ quarterback top tier money. And I think that the Ravens are about to do the same thing inadvertently. I don't think Lamar Jackson is worth top 5, but I've always said being a free agent isn't about being the best. It's about being free. So
it's about hitting it at that time. Joe Flacco was like the number one paid.
Yeah. And for the record, Joe Flacco balled out to earn that contract. Joe Flacco earned that. You can say what you want about Matt Stafford in Detroit. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco balled out, put up what Joe Montana did in 4 Super Bowls. Joe Flacco did essentially in 4 straight playoff games. If you tally up all those numbers. I mean, it really was remarkable. He earned that money. And then what he did after he got it was nothing, which is what he did prior to that season. But for one season, he earned that money because it's about timing. He was free after he did that. He earned it.
Okay. Now let's, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of like with Dak. I feel like you could go and get another quarterback in like the 3rd or 4th round. What? You're covering your face?
No, finish your point. I'm going to let you talk.
I just feel like these teams get so scared that they can't find someone that can match the production. And if you have like a good scheme and everything, and you have protection, you can get a quarterback that will, like, you're not going to get a quarterback that's incredible, but like, how many games does Dak Prescott win by himself? Truly. And I just feel like you could go back and like this whole thing you've got to do around Lamar Jackson, you've got to create the entire offense around him. So it's like, if you were to pull someone out of there, it's just like everything has to go right with Lamar Jackson. And I just feel like he's more of like a running back playing quarterback. I mean, is he going to last for that long? You think he's going to last another 5 years performing at this level?
Don't think he has to. I mean, let's be realistic. The way sports work, Lamar Jackson has already generated more revenue than whatever they pay him in this contract for that team. In getting them to the playoffs, in recruiting players to come there, Lamar Jackson in commercial time, in primetime games, Lamar Jackson, and nobody remembers this, John Harbaugh was on the verge of parting ways, not because he wasn't great, but because he had down years and that team didn't know where they were going. Lamar Jackson made everything normal again. Now you've got one of the best coach-quarterback combinations. Yes, you pay for that. I'm so sorry. And for the record, yes, it's highly volatile. No, I don't expect him to age well. No, I never expect him to lead the league in touchdowns again.
Are they truly one of the best quarterback-coach combinations in your mind?
Oh, yeah. John Harbaugh is a top 5 coach. And Lamar Jackson's a top 10 quarterback. There's not a lot of those combinations lying around. And also, I will say this about the Ravens not paying him. What is Kyle Shanahan's record with a backup quarterback? What is Sean McVay's record when he doesn't have Goff or Stafford? What is Tom Brady? Or sorry, what is Bill Belichick's record without Tom Brady? Yeah, no, you pay Lamar, even though you know there's a high chance he gets injured. So you draft a good backup, sign a good backup, whatever you have to do, precautionary subsequently. But no,
it's just like, don't you know that he can get you to the playoffs, but he can't really get you much further than that?
You don't know that he can't get you much further than that. He's had almost the same playoff success as Josh Allen, who deserves every single dollar that they throw at him.
You know that team is scared crapless when teams force him to throw. Like, let's be real.
He has had a better season than Josh Allen has ever had, basically. Or, sorry, he's had a comparable season to Josh Allen's best season, and he's had the same playoff success. Do you think Josh Allen deserves to get paid?
Yes.
But I don't care that it looks different. I don't care that it's weird. I don't care that there's a higher risk of injury here. I pay that. He's an MVP. He's an MVP of this league.
Josh Allen's going to get paid, but how long is that guy going to make it without getting hurt also?
I don't think very long. I don't think very long. That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked it. I don't think very long.
He puts his body up a lot. I mean, he's a big guy, but still, I mean, you can only take so many hits.
He is the
every year he is their best running back. Like, how is it that Buffalo has such a paltry running game?
You already know my feelings. They've just solved that problem. They drafted a running back who completely splits the difference. He is slightly worse than Zach Moss between the tackles, and he's better than Singletary in the receiving game. James Cook's a beast, and it's going to take him maybe 12 games to get the job because they're so good and they're going to win, and you take less away from a win than a loss. They're not going to think to themselves, oh, we can't run the ball because they're just going to be up by so many points. But eventually they will struggle to run the ball, and James Cook will run the ball because he's actually good. So they've pretty much solved that running back problem.
Well, let's turn the page to a guy that you probably see on a milk cart. It's been a couple of years since we saw him. Michael Thomas, really one of the best receivers in the league a couple of years ago. Still seems like he's not fully recovered from the ankle injury. How much do you think are you expecting him and Jameis to be one of the top tandems this year? Do you think that he'll be the number one receiver on the Saints this year? Is Michael Thomas still good?
Michael Thomas will be as good as DJ Shark for the rest of his career.
I don't think you're complimenting him.
He will be as good as Michael Gallup for the rest of his career.
As Laviska Shenault kind of is
no, a tier above that, but a tier below where he was. And I think if he's in a superior scheme with a better quarterback, he can outproduce those guys while being a comparable player. Because I think scheme and fit have a large amount to do with, your success level.
I just feel like, how long do we see an injury like that linger for so long? I mean, it's almost like, remember Garrison Hurst was out for a couple of years with the 49ers and came back and had like another 1,200-yard year. I feel like it's not often multiple years in the NFL that you go out and come back and are productive.
Well, this was two different injuries, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's been crap thrown in there. Maybe a couple injuries or whatever the case. Just saying, like, whatever it's been a little time since he's played as the Michael Thomas that we know.
Yeah, I give you Ricky Williams. That's the only one I thought of.
Yeah. Garrison Hurst, I think, is another decent example too. I think he was out for a couple of years, came back and ran for 1,200 yards, but it doesn't. I think it's just something to the NFL conditioning and everything. I mean, it's so much to get to that level where you can even play.
It's not just the NFL; it's contact sports, right? So, when a fighter goes a year without getting punched in the face, it's really hard to step back into the octagon, the ring, whatever that is. It's tough. It's tough when you stop getting hit or stop going through that rigorous process. It's tough to get that level of discipline back.
So, final answer. So, Michael Thomas is a good receiver this year, is the number one receiver for the Saints.
He will be number one this year until Olave passes him. he will be a red zone threat and a really good receiver. I never thought he had all of the route tree, and now that he's slightly less explosive, that will hurt him. But he is tough to jam on the line, so he will still be a threat.
Now, you talked about Olave. Do you think that Jarvis Landry gets his value a bit? Pardon me, gets his value back a bit this year. He kind of put up some numbers that we're not really used to expecting from Jarvis Landry. Typically, he's going to be up there in the 90 to 100 catch range, and last year wasn't quite there. There were some injuries involved, but do you see him as going to New Orleans as a way to get back on track to how he's been producing? Do you think he'll take a lower role behind those other two? What do you expect out of Jarvis Landry this year?
I think because he's a baller, he could be their wide receiver one. But I think what's best for that team is he is a locker room leader and the number 3 option, and he plays in the slot. I think that's the best option for the Saints. I love Jarvis.
I'm a big fan of Landry.
I'm a big fan of Jarvis, but the way he plays, it doesn't shock me when those guys age poorly. So if this is all he has, I mean, he's noticeably a step slower. So if that's where he is in his career, then if I'm him, worry about winning, don't worry about targets, and let these other guys eat, because I think he's a better leader, better person, better man, who's had 100 catch seasons. If those are behind him, then be a teammate.
Yeah, he's really precise with his route running. It almost thinks to me, who's the receiver who went to the Bills that's getting a little bit older?
Gabriel Davis?
No, not Gabriel Davis. He was like on the Saints. Sanders. He kind of like Emmanuel Sanders, a little bit older or whatever, but I feel like that's where he could kind of transition into something like that. Somebody who's still like crisp on running his routes. And
that is exactly the name. That's the name I was going to say, but I chose to not go with comparison because I do that a lot.
Yeah, I think of them like I see him as like that's basically him when he's older,
Well, no. I don't know that. I think Emmanuel Sanders' apex will be higher than Jarvis's, but I think what Emmanuel Sanders was for the Saints is what Jarvis Landry can be for the Saints.
Yep. Let's talk about one more question before we'll switch over to playoff teams, talk about the Patriots. But one more question as we're just kind of tossing around this little hot potato, question is, how do you think the Cardinals offense will be without DeAndre Hopkins through the first 6 games this year? Like Kyler Murray's production has been down quite a bit without Hopkins in the lineup over his career. It's like they bring in Marquise Brown, but I just wonder, without his quote unquote binky, so to say, how good do you think that Kyler Murray will be through the first 6 games? Because I think there's going to be some struggles, to be honest.
They brought in DeAndre. DeAndre got hurt, and they saw the error of their ways. They have built this now way more vanilla and fundamental. They have a young wide receiver who takes the top off. They brought Marquise Brown, who, while he's fast and can take the top off, he's much better on lateral routes, screen routes, slants, things like that. So you got your guy that's short, you got your guy that's long. You still have Ertz, and you drafted another tight end. They spent draft capital on the offensive line the last 2 years. I think they'll be fine because I think Cliff Kingsbury, or actually this might be more my heart than my brain, but I'm going to continue. I think they're finally going to try to be less creative until D-Hop gets back. I think you're going to see them running the ball more. I think Ingram's great. I think Benjamin's good. I think Connor is excellent when he's healthy. So I think you're going to see a more balanced offense from them.
Now, where is James? Is James Conner still there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, maybe they scheme it up, get creative. I just feel like Kyler Murray has depended quite a bit on DeAndre Hopkins.
But they've got 2 tight ends that can't block, which which is why they spent capital and money on offensive line. But both of them can help control the middle of the field. I'm not sold that McBride is as good as people think. He was the first tight end taken off the board, but I do believe he's got tons of talent. I feel similar to him like I did Cole Kmet coming out of the draft. Like, boy, is that really a guy too clunky and slow to play receiver and not quite good enough at blocking to really be a tight end. But those guys are all over the place now. We have Janu Smith. We have Pat Fryermuth. So if he's just going to be one of those guys, him plus Ertz is a nice way to control the middle of the field when you have Moore over the top and Brown cutting inside. And that's without D-Hop.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think Kingsbury will be able to scheme up some stuff, but I don't know. I just feel like D-Hop has really been somebody that Kyler's like used to. I don't know. I just wonder. It's like when you have that guy that you can go to when everyone's covered. It just what will it be like when he doesn't have his best option?
Billy, would you rather have Lincoln Riley or Cliff Kingsbury?
Probably Riley.
Me too. I do not like Kingsbury. I think he's a bum coach who failed upwards, and I don't think he's helping Kyler Murray's career. But Kyler will be fine. Kyler's got talent. As long as Kyler doesn't take the hit that will end his career, which I am convinced he will take at some point, he will be fine. He throws a great deep ball for that size. He's elusive. He played baseball, which means he can get down and slide. He'll be fine until he takes that hit. Because unlike Russell Wilson, he is not thick. He's not getting hit and coming back up.
Well, hey, let's move on to the Patriots a little bit. We did our kind of random questions. Let's move on to the Patriots. I know you wanted to talk about Bill Belichick's leash. I mean, we've heard about different things in training camp, kind of Trent Brown not necessarily buying in, maybe having some issue with the coaching. Kendrick Bourne maybe not buying in, maybe having some issues with the coaching. Interesting that both those guys come from the 49ers, where they've played in Shanahan's offense, and maybe they know something. They're kind of can't being able to. They're not able to take direction from like Joe Judge, who's learning it for the first time. I wonder if that's something. You're just hearing from everybody that's talked about the Patriots issues all training camp. You've seen it in these preseason games that they really just do not have their things together. They're all out of sorts, and the offense is just really a slog. You've got to be looking into it and saying that the Patriots are not going to perform that well this year. I kind of keep looking at them for like a 7-10 season, maybe an 8-9 season. But Frank, I know you wanted to talk about Bill's leash. Tell me a little bit about what Belichick, what you think how they'll perform this year, and what you see as far as his leash being. I mean, Robert Kraft made some comments before the start of this year, seeming like he doesn't have a lot of patience left.
I'm going to start talking on 2.0 speed because I want to get a lot in here without wasting too much of the show because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I think Bill Belichick, in an ideal world, would love he very much loves the Shanahans. He would love to create a West Coast offense. He would love to steal Bill Walsh's scheme. He would love to actually implement this. And I think earlier in his career with guys like Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels, this would have been a rousing success. It's no surprise to me that at the end of his career, he wants to do something like this because he is so old and rigid. It is now even more abundantly clear. We always say in New England, the GM Bill has always hampered the coach Bill. He's a much better coach than GM. I went back while talking about it today. I was doing research. He's actually a fabulous GM. He's actually an amazing GM. He goes through peaks and valleys like everybody else, but the second best GM in that time frame was Ozzie Newsome, and he's right up there. Drafted just as many Pro Bowls and Hall of Famers, made just as many trade acquisitions for the same. So he's been excellent. But at the end of his career, that's going to be the nail in his coffin if it doesn't work. That's why the leash has to be short. Either he can or cannot pull this off, but he's done it in a way that is so arrogant with so much hubris. This leash has to be short. It's 1 year. And when I say that, aesthetics do mean something. If we do win 7 games, but it looks good and we score high to mid-20s with a young quarterback, I will accept that and give 1 more year. But I think it's going to be an abject disaster, and that's why I'm saying 1 year on the leash.
I agree with you just in terms of that leash kind of at the, I don't fully agree on like how long he's got, but just as far as like, if they do see, I basically feel like this year, if you see progress out of Mac Jones, that's a win, basically. You could finish 7-10, but you could see Mac Jones elevating and this offense scoring. I feel like that would get people saying good things, keeping them around. But if Mac Jones takes a step backwards in year 2, I mean, that's going to be flat out concerning, and I don't think there's going to be a big appetite to handle that. I feel like Belichick has done enough to – he's going to be able to dictate how he wants to leave, like Brady should have been able to. The coaches aren't – I mean, the Krafts aren't going to be able to get rid of Brady and Belichick, are they? I mean, before they ultimately want to go.
I first guessed this. I would have traded Bill to the Giants at the time. That's the only other organization he would have went to. I would have traded Tom to the 49ers at that time. I would have had Josh. I would have had Jimmy. Neither one is elite at what they do, but they're both good, maybe Pro Bowl caliber, and I would have had 6 firsts to go with. That's what I would have done. That would have been the move. That was the only move. They should have never not franchised Tom. They should have never picked one versus the other. They should have made them both stay. And as soon as you picked one versus the other, you screwed yourself. Because now they do
what they should have done. Now that they've done that, they're not going to kick them both out, right?
They should. I think it's going to go badly. And I don't think it's because Bill can't do this even at this age. I think it's because Patricia and Judge can't do this, and his son can't do this, and he doesn't have the ability at this age to overcompensate for all of that, and he definitely doesn't have the roster talent.
So are we at the point where Belichick can't overcome an average roster?
No, he can. This is a bad roster.
Just a bad roster. Okay.
Let me rephrase that. This is a roster that is lacking talent at key positions. We don't have great tackles. We don't have great wide receivers. We don't have great edge rushers. We have a great interior lineman. We have an undersized edge rusher who's pretty good but gets locked up against elite offensive lines. We have Kyle Duggar, who I think can be a really, really good safety. Congrats. You found Devin McCourty's successor. But Devin McCourty, when he's not had good corners in front of him, has not been great.
You know, it's funny. We haven't heard a thing about Devin McCourty this offseason. I mean, I probably heard about
paid. His brother's got it and he got paid. Why would he feel the need?
I feel like I've heard about every damn player in that camp, but I haven't heard a single thing about Devin McCourty. It's just interesting to me. I haven't even heard his name being mentioned.
I'll bet you haven't heard about Dante Hightower either.
Is that Dante Hightower there?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know.
You never heard a lot about Will Fork either, outside of what he came to training camp in. Once you're a stalwart here, you tend to seemingly always be under the radar.
Yeah.
Outside of those stupid social media videos with Amendola, you didn't really hear about Edelman from the national media or even from the team media because he didn't get to play in the preseason because he was fragile until later in his career when he became the absolute dog's bollocks.
Yeah. God, my internet's not working.
What, you want to kick it into playoff teams? You want to switch NBA?
Yeah, sure.
What, playoff teams?
Sure.
All right, so I've thought about this. I wanted to bring this up last week. I'll list them off as to not take forever, as per the meeting. I'll start AFC, and this is in no particular order because I didn't really have time to do all that. I just wanted to get odds in. But Bills, Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, yeah, all four from that division getting in the playoffs. You're going to add 7 teams in one conference make the playoffs. All 4 from that division getting in. I got Bengals. I got Colts. Titans, I'm 50-50 on. I'm actually going to say Titans and Ravens. I don't think the Browns get in. I think those are your 7.
Well, there we go. You think all 4 from that division are going to make
all
it?
All 4 from that division, Billy.
Is that even possible?
Yes. And then Bengals, Titans, Ravens. Yeah, it's possible.
Okay. Well, all right. There you go. Yeah, I definitely have to give my everything's like frozen on my end over here, so I had stuff up, but
no worries. Give me your playoff teams, or at least tell me the difference in your list and my list.
I was trying to, but I don't have my list right now. My internet's not working.
Okay, who do you have coming out of the AFC West?
AFC West, I definitely have the Chiefs coming out of there. I just feel like, I just trust the consistency of Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. I just feel like they're going to keep things rolling over there. I feel like it's addition by subtraction, the Tyreek Hill. I just feel like that's going to open them up to be a lot more free. Oh, my God. Your head's going down.
Look, man, I get it in sports, the addition by subtraction thing, and it's so seldom true. And I get it because if you think about it, the Raiders did get addition by subtraction. He was never going to be good there. But then we get Moss for a conditional fourth. Like, I don't know, man. I just.
Yeah. No, I mean, trust me. I feel like you could also say that that's crazy, but I feel like sometimes with those number one wide receivers, you always got to look for them. And to throw downfield to a 5'9" guy has got to be pretty difficult. Like, I don't know.
Yes, broadly. But that's a man who we've already seen high point the ball in the NFL. So there's your mitigating high right there. Joe Hayden, always undersized for a corner. Yes, we've seen him go up with 6-foot receivers and get the ball. So now that's over. Now that's over now because we've seen him compensate for that. Tyrann Mathieu. Oh, he's undersized. Yes, but we've seen him play now. He plays bigger than that size. We're fine. And here's the other. Tyreek Hill is 1%. And it's so rare you get rid of a 1% athlete and you get better. It's so rare.
Trust me, I just feel like Tyreek Hill is like a little bit. I feel like he might be difficult to like work into your off. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes when the Chiefs are rolling, Mahomes could just pick apart people and throw to the open guy. I feel like he throws guys open. There will be open guys. I feel like he's not even going to have to think back there. He's just going to make his reads and throw. And I know that you would rather have Tyreek Hill than not, but I really don't think it's going to hurt them that badly. I really don't.
It's going to help their offensive line to not have Tyreek. It is going to hurt Patrick Mahomes. It is. That is 1%. You don't. They've got MVS, Hardman, and more. They've got 3 guys that run under a 4.4. And still they've not made up for Tyreek because Tyreek is special. Tyreek is just special. And I've seen the numbers. MVS had the most plays above 50 yards or most touchdowns above 40 yards or whatever, or I think above 25 yards, whatever it was. He bested Tyreek in those categories. Yes. But who is terrifying the defensive coordinator all week? It's Tyreek Hill. Who can get 2 drops in a game and still be the best player on the field because he can get 6 catches for 200 yards? That's Tyreek. That's Tyreek.
Yep.
Moss. That's like 5 players ever.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how many teams from that? Because you're still frozen, right?
Yeah, I can't do anything.
How many teams make it from the West? Since I have 4 coming out, how many teams do you think make it from the West?
I just feel like in that division, not all 4 can be that good. Like there will be a disappointment. Like either the Raiders or the Broncos will or even. I feel like all of us are saying that the Chargers are like so just like they're still a young team. They haven't proved that they could win. They have talent, but that doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to win 11, 12 games.
I've said this on the show. The Chargers are the team with the most top-end talent to never do anything with it in 2 different decades now. That LT Sean Merriman team was unbelievable. And you've got Bosa and Mack. You've got Murray. You've got James. You've got Herbert. You've got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. You've got a bevy of top-tier talent, and you do not translate that into wins very often. And that would be my team that I'm questionable about. The other 3, I think, are shoo-ins.
Yep. Yeah, well, I think I think we should just we're just having some difficulties over here, so I feel like we might just want to, cut this one short.
We can do that, my friend. Up to you.
yeah, so appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. I just my computer's just like completely like locked up and stuff. But we thought this might be an issue. But appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you the same time, same place next week.